How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Critically Incorrect Episode 5. Quite a week here full of gaming news to talk about, as well as a little release known as Cyberpunk 2077. Real quick, just as always, we are joined today by Charlie and Justin. If you both want to just say hi real quick.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
And yeah, as I said, we have quite a show today, so I guess we're going to start with what we've been playing this past week. I'll start off with Charlie.
Well, I mean, like both of these guys, Cyberpunk has kind of been my main game since that released on Thursday. And I've been playing a few other things here and there. I've actually been playing Vermintide 2, quite a bit recently with some mates, which is pretty fun, and diving into Fortnite here and there. But yeah, Cyberpunk's been eating up my time the most.
Right on. How about you, Justin?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Since Thursday, I've been playing Cyberpunk. I guess before the week, I played a bit more of Call of Duty. Yeah, I had a few more friends get the game, so just been playing a bit of that with them. Just playing also a bit more of NHL, but yeah, mainly Cyberpunk for me.
Right on. Yeah, myself, pretty similar story. Let's see here. Cyberpunk, I am 8 hours in. That's been mainly since, Wednesday afternoon for me when it unlocked. Besides that, it's been pretty low-key. I think I played a bit of Demon Souls off-stream. I actually beat like another 2 bosses. I'm just slowly going through that game. And besides that, really, as Charlie said, it's been like, games with friends like Fortnite and all that. It's been a pretty low-key week. But yeah, Cyberpunk, exciting stuff. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, I guess that brings us into out this week. As we said, Cyberpunk 2077 is out now, finally, after, the 7-year wait. It's out today on PC, PS4, Xbox One, as of now. And yeah, definitely a big release. I'm looking forward to finishing it up and talking with both Justin and Charlie about this game. Also worth to note that Medal of Honor, that VR game by Respawn, is finally out. It's out on Steam and Oculus platforms at the moment for $59.99, as well as Doom Eternal for Switch. That's the panic button port. So yeah, a little cool, way to end off this year with, CD Projekt Red, big JRPG, or RPG rather, and Medal of Honor finally coming out here. So yeah, I guess that brings us into the one gaming news story apparently that broke outside of the Game Awards this week, or I guess last week on Friday. Naughty Dog promotions happened. Yeah, this came by way of a blog post by Evan Wells, the co-president, or I believe actually might be the president. Yeah, the president of Naughty Dog at the moment. Promotions-wise, Neil Druckmann now joins him as co-president of Naughty Dog. It says after serving for almost 3 years as vice president, that was his previous role, as well as Allison Mori and Christian Gerling as vice presidents of Naughty Dog, kind of replacing his role. Prior to becoming vice president, both Allison, she served as a director of operations, and Christian was a co-director of programming. So some pretty cool promotions going on at Naughty Dog to end off this year. And yeah, did you have any thoughts on this? Was this surprising to any of you?
I
Not
mean,
too much. Sorry, you go first. Yeah.
yeah, right. I mean, the fact that Neil got promoted isn't really surprising, because overall Last of Us was a massive success, so it makes sense, for him to get a promotion in the company. Like, he's been moving up and up for years over there, so it seems like a natural progression of things. He's still obviously going to be directing and writing, like he said that, so how many roles he will actually take on in that position, I guess we'll see. But yeah, it's cool to see all the promotions going on right now.
Yeah, I kind of echo that. I wonder how that will change his day-to-day job, obviously, being the big guy director behind Last of Us Part 1 and 2. I'm guessing he's obviously just going to continue that role, except he'll have a bigger say in overall the company as a whole. So, pretty cool. Yeah, congrats to all of those developers at Naughty Dog. Exciting stuff. Anyways, I guess that brings us to the Game Awards. Arguably, that was the biggest thing that happened this week in terms of gaming news and announcements and awards and all that stuff. So, yeah, I guess we'll go quickly over the news in terms of, who won what. Real quick, Content Creator of the Year, Valkyrie won that. Best debut game went to Phasmophobia by Kinetic Games. Best multiplayer went to Among Us. Best Sports Racing went to Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. Best Sim and Strategy went to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Best Family Game went to Animal Crossing New Horizons. Best Fighting Game went to Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate. Best Role-Playing Game went to Final Fantasy VII Remake. Best Action Adventure, Last of Us Part 2. Best Action, Hades. Best VR, Half-Life Alyx. Innovation Accessibility went to Last of Us Part 2 as well. Best Community Support, Fall Guys. Best Mobile, Among Us. Best Indie, Hades. Best Ongoing, No Man's Sky. Games for Impact went to Tell Me Why. And Best Performance went to Laura Bailey as Abby. Best Audio Design, The Last of Us Part 2. Best Score and Music, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Best Art Direction, Ghost of Tsushima. Best Narrative, Last of Us Part 2. Best Game Direction, Last of Us Part 2. And Game of the Year, Last of Us Part 2. So, yeah, a big night for Last of Us Part 2. I think we all kind of expected them to sweep a lot of these awards. Still was kind of surprised to see them win as many as they did. Like, I think a big one that stood out to me was Best Game Direction. Like, I probably would have gave that to Half-Life Alyx. But nonetheless, Part 2 won that one as well. Did I send you guys the article for all the awards or no?
You didn't, but it's all good.
If you want to, I can link it over here. You can look over the list.
Yeah, sure, send it.
Anything really stick out to you guys about what won or got snubbed possibly?
I mean, like you said, I think the one that Last of Us took that I really agree with, not like it should have been Half-Life, was the game direction. Like I really do think Half-Life deserved that one. You know, after however many years, it was like nearly a decade of not making a game, they managed to make one of the best games of the year, and I just think it's a crazy effort for them to be able to actually do that, and it turned out really well. So I just enjoyed that game to no end. So I was kind of sad to see it not get picked, but at the same time, it makes sense. You know, Last of Us has a bigger audience. More critics will have played Last of Us than they will have Half-Life. So I completely understand.
Yeah, I completely echo that. What about you, Justin? Anything that you came across surprised?
Not really, to be honest. Like, yeah, I like Last of Us like was not nominated for so many awards, and I personally just expected them to win most of them anyways, just because like, you know, as you said, the critics love Last of Us. Like even though like the fan reception wasn't the best, you know, like we saw right away critic awards, critic reception, like the Metascore right away, like was super high on the first day, I remember. So yeah, critics love that game, and at the end of the day, for the Game Awards, you know, it really is like decided by the critics. So I wasn't really too surprised by Last of Us winning all these awards.
Yeah, I'm trying to look through this list here. Nothing really sticks out too much. I'm glad No Man's Sky won Best Ongoing Game, to recognize Hello Games sticking to that game. Yeah, at the end of the day, as you kind of like hit on, it's, you know, the critics. So a lot of these games that are like popular and, you know, really critically acclaimed are going to be the ones that, you know, win. Like Games for Impact, we already knew Tell Me Why was going to win because that was like the one game we heard of out of that list, and yet again, of course, it won. Yeah, I'm looking through this Best Performance. I predicted that to be Laura Bailey. She won that. Yeah, ultimately it was pretty predictable, and yeah, I guess there's nothing really to note on that. We'll go into the announcements for this event here. And yeah, overall, before we go into the announcements, gotta say the show was pretty long. Definitely felt more of a announcement show than the awards show, I guess. Like they literally started off with like two pretty big reveals, and almost like in the first hour they only gave out like one award. So definitely seems to be like a shift that they're going forward here. Is, you know, still focusing on both obviously as like a dynamic, but I definitely kind of had the, I don't know, feeling that it felt like more of an announcement show than anything this year, at least. They started off the show with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Sephiroth was announced. It kind of amazes me how, yet again, like this stuff doesn't get leaked. Like I swear, I was talking to Charlie about this. Like the past few fighters have been pretty predictable in the fact that it was like Steve from Minecraft and Banjo-Kazooie. Those have been like two that were thrown around for a while now. But I don't think anyone really predicted Sephiroth. And I think it's also worth noting that this is the first time in Super Smash Bros. History that a second character in the same like third-party series came. So like in the past, you'd always get like, you know, multiple Fire Emblem or multiple Mario characters from those series. But whenever you got like a visitor coming in from like another world, like a third-party game, you'd always get like one representative of that series until now. So kind of interesting to see that happen. Yeah, did you have any thoughts on this? There's quite a bit of announcements, so we're going to go through them all here, but Sephiroth?
I mean, it's cool. I think the best thing about it was unexpected, right? Like that, feel like with both the Game Awards Smash announcements with Joker and now Sephiroth, like you go into it with some expectation, and a lot of that this year was, hey, it's probably going to be Jonesy or Crash. Like, those were the two that I heard a lot of people talking about, and nobody was expecting Sephiroth, so it's cool to see. Like, personally, I'm not that excited about him because it's just another character with weapons, but like swords and stuff. But it's still cool to see they're bringing in more third-party stuff. So
Yeah. Justin, you have anything you want to add on Smash at all? Sephiroth being added.
Not too,
Yeah.
too much. I don't play Smash, so.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I did just buy my Nintendo Switch, so we'll see.
We'll see. Maybe we'll get in now. Exactly.
We'll see.
Anyways, to add on to that, they started off in terms of like a new game revealed. They showed off the Initiative. Justin predicted this, right? Xbox did show this off. Despite Aaron Greenberg pretty much being on Twitter being like, temper your expectations, they did show up Perfect Dark there. Yeah, it was a CGI trailer, just very cinematic. Nothing really of note, despite to show off the world of what this new project's going to be. Perfect Dark has been a series that people have wanted to return for, it's been at least over a decade now, right? It's been talked about for ages, so probably more than that.
The last one was the 360 launch title, right? Like Zero or whatever. Yeah.
That's crazy. So they're doing it. It definitely looks like, if I'm looking at the Xbox lineup as a whole right now, I'm definitely looking at Perfect Dark. It just rubs me the right way. We've been always talking about, Xbox in the past, how they rely on Halo, Gears, and Forza, and, those kind of series like that. Perfect Dark is definitely, more of a direction I want to see them go in with, like, different projects, so. Yep, Justin got that correct. Did you have anything of note to talk about, what you saw there?
I mean, I just thought it was a nice surprise to see because, like, as you said, the previous expectations that they said like not to expect too much from Microsoft at the Game Awards, and I kind of still expected to see something there, and yeah, once again, like I predicted that we might see the Initiative there, just because we've seen in the past that Microsoft likes to show off things at the Game Awards, like we saw last year. In terms of the trailer, I mean, yeah, it was just like a 2-minute CGI trailer. It didn't really tell us too much about the actual game. But then again, you have to realize the studio really only formed like 2 years ago, and that takes time to build a studio. So like I assume we won't really like this game won't be out for a while. Like it's probably like 2 years out, at least probably.
Seems like a lot of their games won't be out for a while. So actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm remembering now that Halo Infinite got confirmed for fall 2021. So I guess we'll throw that in here.
True, yeah.
Somehow that wasn't, being remembered like 30 minutes ago when making this, but yeah, that got confirmed for fall 2021. Really, Xbox doesn't have too much coming in the near future. There was that rumor that Charlie was mentioning. I'm not sure if he mentioned it on podcast or after, about the new Forza project that's a bit smaller going on at Playground, but that's rumored, right?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it on the honorable mentions last week, but I don't really know what's going on with that then, because like Jeff Grubb had been talking about it, like I said, just before we did that podcast last week, and he didn't mention it at all like when Game Awards was going on. So hey, maybe he's wrong, maybe he's been hearing like wrong rumors, who knows. But I mean, Horizon 5 seems like a given because it's such a popular series, and I would imagine it's not too difficult to take what they've done and place it in a new map. So we'll see. I mean, that's the kind of game they could reveal and release within a few months, so yeah.
True. But yeah, besides that, I think like during that July showcase, they showed off, like, we already know from like last year that Hellblade is going to be definitely not this year, because they're relying on Unreal Engine 5. So I feel like that game's probably like early 2022 possibly. Same with State of Decay 3, I believe that was revealed in July. A lot of their games are coming out in the next 2 year plus, but it's good to see them kind of diversifying that in terms of what to look forward to. So looking forward to seeing the Initiative's Perfect Dark come here in the future. Back for Blood, this was actually a really cool, not surprise, because I definitely had like a 50-50 expectation of this showing up, but essentially this is the creators of Left 4 Dead. Me and Charlie have been looking forward to seeing this being announced. It was announced via blog post, I believe it was like early 2019, right, that they formally announced
I want to
it.
say it was about a year and a half ago.
it was essentially announced like early just to get talent on to their studio because Turtle Rock is hiring. Yeah, as I said before, these are the original Left 4 Dead creators before they've kind of had a falling out with Valve, just because Valve doesn't really traditionally work well with others. They just have a reputation with that. But yeah, they're back with Back 4 Blood, essentially kind of taking that Left 4 Dead DNA but modernizing it. Obviously now you can aim down sights, which is nice. Seems like they have some really cool twists in terms of like the size of these zombies. But yeah, it's going to have cooperative elements. It's going to be competitive. They announced that an alpha is going to be next week on the 17th, so make sure to go register now. I believe it's first come, first serve. But yeah, it's going to be coming out June 22nd for 2021 next year on PS4, PS5, Windows PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. So definitely a good bit of platforms. I know they initially announced this for current gen, and we were wondering if that was going to remain true, so I'm glad they kind of confirmed that it's coming to PS5 as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I've been saying for a while now that co-op is kind of a dying genre in a way. There definitely are a few on like Steam side at least, but in terms of consoles for sure, there's a pretty big lack of co-op games. So this is just like perfect. Like me and Charlie have literally been playing Left 4 Dead at least a few times this past year, and it's definitely been a blast. So it's nice to see that we're going to get like a new game for this. Honestly, this might be like my favorite announcement from the show just because I'm really excited for this game. So I guess I'll let Charlie talk about what he thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks great. Like, it just looks like an evolution of Left 4 Dead, and that's exactly what I think most people want from the game. I just really hope that they get the message across that they did make Left 4 Dead, because we were saying this when we were watching it, and like in the trailer itself, they didn't mention, that it's from the same people, and I feel like most people see zombie games now and just kind of switch off. So I hope it does well, because I think it's going to be a good game. It does look really promising. And like Brandon said, we need more co-op games. And funnily enough, this conference had a lot of them.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
Hey, maybe we're going to be sick of co-op games in a year from now, but we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. I'm wondering, like, yeah, you definitely hit it nail on when they need to, like, kind of market that they are, the creators of Left 4 Dead. Like, I was literally watching some VODs of some streamers, and, like, the chats were filled with Left 4 Dead ripoff. I'm like, bruh, that's because they're the creators of Left 4 Dead. I'm wondering, would that be a license thing? Because Valve technically owns that IP, right? But they still are the creators of Left 4 Dead, so that's not really, like...
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, Valve have always been... They're not stingy with their IPs. Like, they would...
Yeah.
I'm sure if they were like, hey, can we, put the Left 4 Dead name in our trailer? They'd be like, sure, that's fine. Like, because I honestly would not be shocked if by the time the game comes out, there's some form of Left 4 Dead crossover with Back 4 Blood.
Yeah.
They've done Left 4 Dead crossovers with games in the past. Dying Light is a great example. That's had a few different updates. I think it had one a month or two ago. With some characters coming in and some of the zombies and stuff, so I definitely see a crossover happening, which would be really cool.
Isn't Bill also like in Dead by Daylight, right?
Yeah, he's in Dead by Daylight as well.
A lot of crossovers like that, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of the casting characters from Left 4 Dead crossover into the game, which would be cool to see. But yeah, they definitely need to market that, they did make Left 4 Dead, because I feel like that would really set them in a good light,
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Justin, what did you think about this? I know we were kind of expecting this, but you didn't.
I was actually quite excited about it too. I mean, like, I didn't know like right away because I didn't know, like really know about the developers or whatever. But I did play Left 4 Dead 2 like a decent amount on PC with like just school friends and stuff like that. Like I remember first year at university and like when like all my roommates and whatever, like we brought our laptop or whatever, and then. These were all people that I never met before. We're just like, oh, what games do you play? And then, yeah, like Left 4 Dead 2 was definitely a game we ended up trying. So like, yeah, I just remember Left 4 Dead 2. I had a lot of fun. I definitely didn't play it as much as you guys. Like I played it, I don't know, maybe like 20 hours or whatever, maybe around.
That's like a good amount.
So like, I did have fun with it though. Like so, I'm definitely super excited for Back 4 Blood. And you guys are doing what, the alpha next week or whatever?
Yeah, there's an alpha.
Yeah.
We got to send you that link so you can register as well.
Right, yeah. So I'm excited for that.
Who knows?
I mean, it's still like half a year out, but it's all good. It'll be I feel like that's such a cool summer game to play.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna be a great time for that game to come out. Like you literally think about like your memories of Left 4 Dead and like the fact that they're gonna be launching a game just like that in June, like a summertime period. Like there's no better time, so
Yeah.
that's great. Arc 2 was announced. This was funny. Vin Diesel was starring in it. I was at first like, what is this game? I saw like the traditional kind of, what would you call that? Like the Emerald, whatever, and I immediately thought of the old Enslaved game on the PS3, Enslaved Odyssey to the West, but no, it's gonna be Arc 2, literally, so it seems like they're going in a more narrative direction. I don't know, Arc's a game where you kind of create your own character and play with friends, so it was a really weird, introduction to the game, considering it seemed really reliant on characters like Vin Diesel. Arc actually had quite a bit of announcements there. They announced that they're doing Netflix show, or not a Netflix show, but it's going to be just an animated series. I don't think they announced
They didn't say a
2022.
platform.
a platform
No.
yet. Exactly. They haven't announced a platform yet, but they're going to be doing an art show that's completely animated. It's actually going to be probably a tie-in with Arc 2 because Vin Diesel is also starring in it. So,
Right.
yeah, definitely the
Big
Arc
cast.
series has it had a big cast for sure. So they definitely had big plans for that. So, yeah, that was something announced there. I don't know if you guys have any concrete thoughts on that. But yeah, we'll just. Mhm.
I was just gonna say, like, I was actually talking to some mates about this today because I've got some mates that really like Ark. They actually are not excited about this game at all.
Really?
Mainly because it looks like it is more like narrative based, and I think most people who play Ark do not play it for the narrative. Interestingly, I forgot to mention this when we were actually watching the conference, but when they showed it on the stage, they had the logos for all the different projects for Ark, and they had Survival Evolved still there, and then Ark 2 to the side, which makes me think Ark 2 is a single player game, and that it is just narrative driven, and it is not as much about survival as the main Survival Evolved game is. So they're going to be kind of two separate entities. So you'll have multiplayer and survival in Survival Evolved, and then you'll have a single player narrative experience with Arc 2. I guess we'll find out when we find out more about the game, but
Yeah.
that was the impression I got from it.
It'd be very
So,
weird to
like,
call
I
it
guess
Arc
we'll see.
2 and not have a multiplayer component, but possibly, yeah.
Yeah. It just seemed weird that they had the different logos on the stage. Like, I didn't really know what they were trying to get across there, but
My biggest thing is just the developer, because the developer doesn't have too good of a track record. We were talking
Yeah.
about this during the show. Atlas was a game they literally showed off at the Game Awards, I think, like maybe 2 years ago?
yeah,
Two,
it's
3 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago in 2018. That was the pirate ship game that looked like a big MMO that had, a pretty promising trailer, but the game was quite a disaster when it launched that December. It still is having issues to this day. They kind of pushed it to the side and are still working on mainly, Arc. So yeah, we'll see how Arc 2 turns out. There's definitely a bigger fan base for Arc, so hopefully it'll be better quality. But yeah, just a bit of a warning there. Anyways, Dragon Age. This was like towards the middle of the show. BioWare actually showed off 2 projects. Well, I guess I'll just tie in Mass Effect here as well. Dragon Age and Mass Effect both got some new footage. Mass Effect definitely was a lot more vague than the Dragon Age, but they're both kind of like early project. It felt like so. I don't expect any of these games to come out until like 2022, maybe late 2022 and then past. But yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not really into Dragon Age or, Mass Effect. It's cool. I've never been into those games. Not to say I won't ever be, but yeah, I know Charlie, you've played like Dragon Age in the past, and Shirley, you played Mass Effect. Anything of note?
Yeah. I mean, I really like Dragon Age Origins. Like, it's a fantastic game. I'm not as big a fan of Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition. So I'm not like excited about a new Dragon Age game, but I'll be sure to check it out when it does come out. I mean, BioWare's track record recently like doesn't leave me with the most hope for this or Mass Effect, but with a shake-up in leadership, I think the studio is actually quite happy about that, because I think that's what it really needed. Like, it sounded like it was hell at BioWare, to be honest.
Yeah.
So hopefully, they're taking a step in the right direction and they can get back on track. But we are not going to see these games for at least 2-3 years, I don't think. So, yeah.
Yeah, they show off like at pretty much every event, right? Were they at the EA Play event in June? I know for sure they were at Gamescom with Dragon Age, right? They just keep showing up behind the scenes footage. They kind of need you.
They showed concept art at EA Play, and then they announced a Mass Effect game like on N7 Day, alongside the remake of Mass Effect 1 or the trilogy even. But this is the first kind of look we got at it. It seems to be continuing the story of the original trilogy, which is interesting. But again, like I enjoy Mass Effect, but with what's been going on with BioWare, I'm not as excited as I typically would be. So I'm cautiously optimistic is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, probably about the same. What about you, Justin? Do you have any past with Dragon Age or Mass Effect?
Not well. I mean, I tried Mass Effect like on my PC like a couple years back. I was probably like 5 years back, but like yeah, I just felt really outdated to me, so I never really could get into that properly. Dragon Age, I don't really have too much experience with. So yeah, I mean they're like okay announcements. I wasn't like super excited or anything. I honestly thought the way they ended it with Mass Effect was kind of like
Weak, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't the best. I thought like it's like okay, this is your last world premiere. Let's see something good, and then
I
it's
think
just like
a few years ago that would have been a really big
Yeah.
way to end it off. But when you last ended off with Andromeda, and especially with BioWare's kind of reputation right now, that wasn't like the best announcement. But
yeah, and I mean
it
they
still
just
is
said,
pretty
like,
big.
They
Yeah,
just said Mass Effect will or like what it's coming back.
Will
or
continue.
Will return. Yeah, so I'm like
Yeah.
okay, whatever. Like
it also is worth to
Doesn't really
note
tell us
that for
anything.
fans, there are like quite a bit of Easter eggs. I know they had some like iconic characters in that trailer, I believe. So possibly a hint of what's to come in the new game. So yeah, exciting stuff. It's also worth to note that among both of these projects here, they're also still apparently working on a Anthem 2.0. So, however that game looks, I'm surprised they're gonna continue with that. I'm guessing it's gonna be like a new game at this point, because yeah, it's been over a year since Anthem dropped. When was Anthem out? Was it early 2019 or?
Yeah, it was
What?
like March
No,
2019. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's almost 2 years now, so it's going to be interesting to see what this, 2.0 of Anthem looks like. Hopefully we'll see it soon. But yeah, BioWare is definitely busy at the moment. They're kind of just showing off as much as they can, because they kind of need to, show that they're going to come out with something, considering the last two games they dropped haven't been the best in terms of fan reception and critically, reception as well. So yeah, we'll see. Quickly add in, Among Us showed off their new map. This is actually a tie-in with the very popular Henry Stickmin's those popular PC games. I know it was pretty big in America. Charlie didn't know what it was, so I'm guessing it remained pretty big in America and just that. But yeah, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about if you see the trailer. That's coming out in early 2021. Fall Guys Season 3 is coming out next week on December 15th. Yeah. Next week. They just recently ended season 2. This is going to be kind of like a winter season, so a little bit cool there. I know Fall Guys was definitely big during the summer, but I think all of us can say that we've kind of dropped it since, I don't know, September maybe. We definitely came back.
Yeah,
I know
that's
me
fair
and
to
Justin have been playing the new season 2. Well, I say new season.
Yeah.
It's kind of old now, but yeah, we
I mean,
played
I
it for a
haven't played
bit.
it since the PS5 came out, so
Exactly. So once November hit, we kind of haven't played it too much since. So hopefully that will bring us back in, but I kind of doubt it. But we'll see. Let's see. Master Chief joined Fortnite. They also announced that the classic map, the Blood Gulch, is coming to Fortnite via Creative. That's out today. As well as the one last thing was that Walking Dead is going to be crossing over with Fortnite. They chose 2 characters, Michonne and Daryl. So yeah, it's interesting to note that the characters they chose, the versions of them at least, Daryl is like season 9 post the 6-year time jump in Walking Dead that they just recently did, and Michonne has her old model, so maybe that hints that they're going to have like different styles or possibly just an oversight. But Fortnite continues to just be the multiverse of gaming apparently, so yeah. Joseph Ferris showed off It Takes Two. This is actually coming really soon, March 26th, kind of insane. Obviously Joseph Ferris, the man, the myth, the legend, was there at 2 years ago at the Game Awards and promoting A Way Out, created probably the biggest meme of the Game Awards, fuck the Oscars. I think all of us were surprised that It Takes Two is coming out so soon, but I guess if you look at the art style and just kind of the scope of the game, it's not like an evolution of what they did with A Way Out, but kind of like a sidestep, kind of like just a different game, which I kind of respect. Yeah, obviously I think the only thing is the co-op implementation that kind of shows the DNA of A Way Out, but yeah. What'd you guys think of It Takes Two? It definitely has like that variety of gameplay that A Way Out had.
I thought it looked awesome, to be honest. Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like I don't know, like it like at first I wasn't the biggest fan of like the art style and whatever, just because like you know me, I'm like a huge fan of realistic cinematic like those experiences, and so like at first you know like the cartoony art style didn't really intrigue me too much. I was still excited for the gameplay, obviously, because I enjoyed both Brothers and A Way Out, obviously. So it was good to see that it was co-op again. And then once we got to see like all those like gameplay snippets of like each scene or whatever, and the just like the huge variety in gameplay or whatever and everything, I was just like, I'm like, yeah, you know what, Joseph Fares knows what he's doing. Um, like, yeah, I just think it's gonna be a great co-op experience again. And yeah, like even though it is that kind of like cartoon art style, it does seem to be telling an interesting story. So I think it should be like an overall good package.
Charlie.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think this is one of the coolest things that was shown off. It looks really promising. I think my biggest problem with A Way Out is it did a lot of things, but none of them really great. Like they were all kind of
Yeah.
cool concepts, but none of it was done to the polish that you would expect from most games. Whereas this looks like they've kind of taken that and just polished the shit out of everything, basically. Like it looks really fun. I'm very excited to try it out. Plus, it's less than what 4 months away, so I'm
Yeah,
very
crazy.
excited about that one.
It's
A
gonna
lot
be
of
a busy
games.
week that week. Yeah,
A lot of games
like
coming out in March.
Returnal,
Yeah.
Prince Persia,
I know a
and
big
Nice.
highlight coming out of the Game Awards was this new game season. This is a really creative game. There was like a few creative games that were coming out of the Game Awards that looked pretty cool. This was the one with the person riding on the bike, I believe, running across. I believe the description of this game was that you're going to be visiting places before they kind of like fade, before like a catalysm or something like that. There's no current release date. We just know it's coming to PlayStation and Windows PC. I believe that's via Steam. So yeah, that game definitely looked pretty cool. It was like a short 1 minute trailer, but definitely was one of the more memorable games. Yeah, it definitely looked really cool. Any thoughts on that one? I know they showed off quite a few kind of games like that that were pretty cool.
I mean, it looked interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's the kind of game I'd maybe check out if there's nothing coming out around the
Mm-hmm.
same time. Um, but it didn't like stand out to me as something like crazy that I need to buy, day one. But it looked intriguing.
Yeah, it reminds me of kind of like those indie games that looked really creative. Like The Pathless was one that I still really want to play, as well as Bugsnax as well, and Haven. Just like really cool art style games. I often like indies need to take advantage of that a lot more. I don't know, like where like unique art styles just could like jump off the page really. Like that one, and then Road 96 here, which is actually the team behind Valiant Hearts, was pretty cool. Apparently, it's like a procedurally generated narrative adventure game. Essentially, where you have like multiple roads you could take and meet different characters that could possibly change the adventure. Also looked really cool. So that was Road 96. Open Roads was actually by the developers of Gone Home. This is actually, I was on stream with Charlie and Justin. This is actually Caitlin Devers' voice acting role in this game, where she played Cassie from Uncharted 4. Yeah, it looked like what was it? They said it was a mother-daughter journey across a series of long-abandoned family properties. So it seems like a traveling family between a mother and daughter. So those three games looked pretty interesting out of the show. Oftentimes the Game Awards can, really promote these games, considering, a lot of eyes are on that show, and, definitely gives them an opportunity to show off what they're working on. So some pretty big developers, as I said, Valiant Hearts, Gone Home, and just showing off their next projects. Road 96 and Open Roads, did any of those jump out to you?
I'm more interested in Road 96.
Mm-hmm.
I I remember really liking Valiant Hearts when that came out. And the trailer looked intriguing, so I'm interested to see when that's coming out, because like it says no real release date or anything. Um, and Open Roads could be interesting. I don't know if it's the kind of thing I would buy. I remember getting Gone Home for free like a year after it came out, and I enjoyed it. Um, Typically they're very short experiences, so I don't know how long like this Open Roads game will be, but it looked interesting.
Open Roads like it feels like it's gonna be one of those games where like the gameplay is not exactly that enticing. Like as you said, Gone Home was pretty cool, but it didn't have. I don't know. It's like hard for me to play these kind of games where like my interaction with them is so minimal. Like I had this with Detroit, where even though the story was really good, like Detroit didn't still push really anything in terms of gameplay. Yeah, oftentimes that can be like a big detergent away from me enjoying those kind of games, but. Yeah. Justin, do you have anything to note on those 3 games?
Not too many. I think they all look interesting in their own way, but yeah, like as Charlie mentioned, I don't know if it's something like I'll necessarily, like need to pick up right away. And yeah, also like what you said, like I feel like I need more, like more often than like I realize now that like I need my games to actually have, at least some decent gameplay involved. Like.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to invest a lot into a game where it's like, yeah, like I do enjoy story, obviously, but yeah, I do also want like solid gameplay that I enjoy. So yeah, we'll see.
I guess we'll go into these final 2 announcements here. We'll start with Evil West here. Evil West is from developer Flying Wild Hog. I believe Charlie said they're developers of what would you say, Shadow Warrior?
Yeah, Shadow Warrior. So
Yeah.
they've got 2 games coming out next year. So
Yeah.
pretty busy.
Published by Focus Home Interactive, they continue to be publishing a lot of these cool indie games. Evil West, this trailer was pretty vague. It looked really weird. It was kind of like a Wild West game that slowly, as the trailer progressed, became a little bit more, what did you call it? Demonized? I don't know. Like at the end, I believe they even teased hell at one point. So yeah, no idea really what this game is besides the theme of it being Wild West. It's coming to PS4, PS5, Windows PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X sometime next year. So that intrigued me a bit. And I guess we'll end off on one I think we all were really pretty excited about. The Callisto Protocol. This is actually a game being developed by Striking Distance. They were kind of teasing this before the Game Awards. We just didn't know what the project was. This was the game that looked like it took place on like a Destiny-like planet that was very horror-driven. Had a lot of vibes from Dead Space. I believe even there's like some Dead Space Easter eggs that people are kind of finding in that trailer now as fans are going back and watching it. This is the game that, as Justin noted on stream, is the third-person action-adventure, horror, story-driven game that he loves to see. Yeah, and it's by the studio that originally created Dead Space, right? Or at least the main guy behind it, Glenn Schofield.
Glenn Schofield. Yeah.
And 2022 was given on it. And you said, Charlie, right? This is still going to be in the PUBG universe, right?
Yeah,
Apparently.
so like the weird thing was, right, is they announced the studio, I want to say end of last year, beginning of this year. It was around the same time they teased the other PUBG project, which was at Game Awards last year. And they basically said, hey, we're working on a narrative-driven shooter game, and it's set in the PUBG universe. So me being a slight PUBG fan, I don't play it much anymore. And I really like the gunplay in that game. I was like, oh, just give me like a single-player game with PUBG's gunplay. And then this trailer starts, and it's like the most confusing thing, because you see space, and you see the prisoner with like the health bar on his neck, and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, as far as I know, this is still set in the PUBG universe. I don't know the lore of PUBG, so I don't know how this will fit in. Yeah, I don't know how it makes any sense, but it looks great. I'm very excited about this.
It really like the polar opposite of a PUBG game. Like it's
exactly
on a foreign planet with like weird creatures. But I'm definitely down for this game. It's coming out in 2022.
It's in the future.
Yeah, definitely looks cool. Looking forward to it. Was anything else that I missed? I know they showed off like some other things, like Nier Replicant got its gameplay premiere. Anything else like game-wise that got announced that I possibly missed?
I'm having a quick look through now and see if there's anything.
I think Crimson Desert's still on the same one, yeah. So this is a game that definitely was probably like one of the longer trailers there. Developers at Black Desert Online. What did they say? It was like a story-driven game taking place in like an MMO kind of world, exclusively for next generation. Yeah, it looked really good, honestly. Like, I'm not traditionally into MMO kind of games, but definitely that trailer convinced me I'm going to pick it up. I think I even said that. Yeah, like, unless something happens where this game doesn't review well or like there's some issues with it, I definitely think I'll probably pick this up next year. I think they said fall 2021, so that game definitely looked really good. So much going on in that trailer. I think it was like 5 minutes long. Like at one point, he was like riding on a dragon. That trailer was wild.
Yeah, I think we all like were sat there when it first started, and we were like, yeah, like I don't really care about this. This doesn't look that interesting. And then it got into actual gameplay of him like in combat and stuff.
Hmm.
And then it hit me that it's the Black Desert people, and I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Like that game is very pretty, so it makes sense. This looks great as well. Um, I don't know, like, because I haven't really played much Black Desert, so I don't know how like the rating or anything is in that. Hopefully this will have a cool narrative and story and things, but gameplay wise it looked really cool. So
Yeah, I have no background on Black Desert Online. I just know I've seen that so many times on the PlayStation Store, and definitely seems like it's like a core base. I don't know. It's not really mentioned much, but it's definitely, you know, it exists. I don't know, Justin. I doubt you do, but do you have any
No.
relationship with Black Desert Online?
No.
Yeah. It's interesting to note that this game is going to be single player, so Black Desert Online, obviously, hence the title. It was an online game. This one's going to be focused on, character relationships and pretty much a story-driven game just set in the world of an MMO. I'm guessing gameplay will still have MMO elements to it. You're going to be leveling up your character and all that. But yeah, it definitely does look really impressive. Next generation exclusive, I think they said. So yeah, that one also was probably like I'd say probably like top 5 of the show. It looked really good. So nice reveal there. Anyways, I guess that was it for the Game Awards overall. What was your verdict on that? I think it was probably one of their better shows. If you considered COVID, I think this is probably like maybe my third favorite. I think 2017 and 2018 are still better shows than this one, but I think this one was better than last year's in my opinion. What about you guys?
I thought
yeah, I thought it was a good show. Like overall, I think it has the same thing that they always do in that it started really strong and then it does start to taper off with announcements and you get more ads towards the end. But I get it. It's so that they can put up their announcements online and draw people in. I think we mentioned this yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Start big so that the headlines can go in and people are like, oh, the show's still going on. I'm going to tune in. They just
Yeah.
announced what? Smash? Sephiroth?
Exactly. So I think it was a great show. They got through everything pretty quick. Clearly, they had more announcements than awards this year, so the awards actually kind of felt like they were the back burner this year.
Yeah, like for the first year ever, it felt like that, right? Yeah.
But I also kind of get it. They didn't have many people on stage, so they probably had less time to do speeches and that kind of thing. And I'm sure they were also very worried about connections, so they didn't want to risk, dedicating a longer span of time to an award if the person can't connect to the Zoom call or whatever. So I can see why that it was more announcement focused. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good show.
I still wish that like the Game of the Year presenter, I feel like they did it so well that one year where they had Jeff from the Overwatch team announced the award for God of War. Like that was such a good kind of recognition of like another developer that won Game of the Year previously. Maybe they didn't have someone from Software that could have done that this year, but yeah, I mean Christopher Nolan's cool, but it just definitely feels weird whenever they have like big celebrities kind of announce awards that don't have really too much of a tie-in. But yeah. Besides that, it was a great show. What about you, Justin? What did you think of the show?
I thought it was a solid show. Like you guys said, like they started off pretty good. They had some good announcements at the beginning. I will just say quickly, like, I think it was like a bit too long. Like like there was the pre-show for half an hour, and then like after that it was another 3 hours. Like it was just 3.5 hours in total, and like I really think they could have cut it down an hour. I don't know. Like I know every year it ends up being like 2.5 to 3 hours long. But I just think like there's a lot of filler content in there that we definitely like didn't a lot of people did not want to see, and especially by the end, like I just felt really tired and I was like waiting for it to like pick up again hopefully and see something big at the end, and like we didn't really get that, to be honest. We didn't get like like another big announcement at the end. So like after kind of like the halfway point, I was kind of like it started to go downhill a bit. But yeah, nonetheless, I still enjoyed it. It's always good to see new games and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's always like I feel like shows are always remembered how you start and end. They started off really strong, and then, like, as you said, they kind of like fizzled a bit on the ending. It wasn't so bad. It wasn't as bad as last year, where they ended on like Fast and Furious crossroads and stuff like
Oh
that. That
yeah.
was wild.
Right.
But yeah, besides that, it was a solid show overall. But yeah, as you said, it was a bit filler at times. Like, I know they have a lot of developers they gotta respect what they're, what they give them, and they gotta show off, what they're, given. But things like they had the Swedish chef being announced for Overcooked, but they had like a whole segment where Jeff was talking to the Muppet, right? And it was like 5 minutes of time just to announce that he's coming to Overcooked tonight. Like, it was so weird. Like, cut some of that stuff out in the future for people in the UK, especially, that are staying up for that. But yeah, wild. Anyways, yeah, already a long show here today with Critically Incorrect, but we still got to talk about Cyberpunk 2077. So it's kind of nice. We're all kind of with different perspectives. Charlie has played, I believe he said, around 12 hours. I played around 8 hours, and Justin's played around 4 hours. Besides Justin, me and Charlie have been playing on PC. Justin, you've been playing on PS5, right? So I guess we'll start off. We'll start off with Charlie. He has probably the most, time out of all of us. Start off with you. What do you think so far of Cyberpunk 2077?
Yeah, I mean, so far I'm really enjoying the game. I think that's mainly down to the fact that I was always excited about Cyberpunk, but I was never overly hyped. I'm a big fan of the Witcher series. I absolutely adore Witcher 2 and 3. So I was always going to get this game. I think that some of the concerns people have are definitely real when it comes to bugs and performance and things. I think that stuff is less of an issue on PC than it is on console, and I'm sure Justin will probably have some things to say when it comes to that stuff. But yeah, for me, so far, I'm really enjoying it. I think gameplay wise, it's got some ups and some downs. I personally am really enjoying the gunplay. I think it's a good balance of being a bit arcadey, whilst also being a bit more tactical like Deus Ex, whilst not quite as in depth as the newer Deus Ex games. So far, I haven't encountered a ton of bugs either. I've just started Act 2 of the game, so Act 1's like the prologue. Throughout the prologue, I basically encountered like nothing. I have started to see more since getting out of there, so it seems like they had a little less time to polish the rest of the game past the opening few hours. But overall, I'm really enjoying my time with it.
Right on, right on. I guess I'll start with mine, and then we'll go with Justin. So yeah, I'm 8 hours in. I literally just finished the first act. I got the title screen, Cyberpunk 2077. Ultimately, yeah, I'm enjoying the game quite a bit so far. I think my biggest takeaway so far has just been how involved I feel with the story, and how connected I feel. Like, the cutscenes in this game are super good, since it's often through, I mean, it's always pretty much through your perspective, your own eyes, and they never cut away. So there's something about just seeing like these really cool pivotal moments in the game, and you having access to the character's camera as V. You could turn your head to different characters as they're talking. It's really cool stuff, honestly. Another highlight would have to be the choice. There's so many dialogue options in this game. Obviously, I don't know how much that affects the game until I play later on, but there's so many decisions I'm making based on my stats, based on like how much I pumped into intelligence. Since I went with corporate, a lot of ways I can talk my way out of conversations with higher up people when they're trying to take advantage of me. It's pretty cool. That's definitely probably another highlight of mine. As gameplay, Charlie hinted on, for me, melee combat feels like such a disappointment in my opinion. Like, it doesn't feel connected at all. Like, it feels like half the time I'm wondering if I hit them at all, as well as just it feels very basic and not fun to play, really. Combat is not that bad when you talk about guns. Charlie said it was a bit arcadey, and I agree with that. I kind of like that as well. Ultimately, it's not like, it's kind of in the middle for me. It's like at a point where it's like it's nothing to talk about, but it's also nothing where it's like bad where it stands out because it's bad. It's kind of just mediocre. It's kind of just there. It serves its point. Yeah, I will say the choices with, upgrading in terms of gameplay, I haven't gone too far, obviously, yet in the game where it changes how I play, but I gotta say the combat so far, it's all right. I definitely find, myself the most involved when I'm having those cutscenes, when I'm having, like, the dialogue options and the stories playing out in front of my own eyes. Yeah, combat, sadly, it's like whenever I get into combat sequences, I wish I was looking forward to them, but I'm not. It's just, I don't know, just, it's nothing really too great in my opinion, which is kind of a shame. In terms of bugs, I've only run into really two. One of them was actually stopping me from continuing progress until I figured out what was wrong. Essentially, it was like a convoy chase sequence where I had to pull out my gun and shoot him. For some reason, V wasn't pulling out his gun, so I was just standing there getting shot at. I had to like spam like a few buttons to get it to work. Like I had to spam Alt and 1 at the same time. Apparently, someone else had the same issue online to pull it out. But yeah, essentially, it was just a glitch. Yeah, besides that, I fell for the map once during the prologue, so I had to reload an old kind of autosave to fix that. In terms of other issues, nothing really that bad. Charlie has said it does get worse later on, so I guess I'll just have to wait and see in terms of what bugs I run into later on, but yeah. Anyways, I know there has been like a pretty big discussion based, on performance on console, which is why I'm glad we have Justin here to offer that perspective. Justin, you're playing on PS5, so I know that it does run a bit better than at least last gen.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just ask about your thoughts because ultimately you played it. So.
All right, sure. Yeah. So I mean, I'm only like 4 hours in on the PS5, so it's not like a super big amount, and I definitely want to play more. But yeah, I'm having it's a pretty good game so far. On console, I would like honestly, I don't think it runs that bad, but like on PS5 at least. I know on Xbox Series X, like, they have the option for, like, you can pick performance or like, fidelity or whatever. It's weird. PS5 doesn't have that, so, like, they only give you one option, which I guess is the performance mode, because, yeah, it is running in 60 frames, so, like, I find it at least with 60 frames, it is pretty smooth. In terms of bugs and stuff, like, I've only run into, like, one major bug that was really weird because it was one of the first cutscenes in the game that I saw. I won't really say like what happened. Like, I'll just say briefly my character was on the floor and the police appeared, and they were supposed to drive around this wall to like stop in front of me. But instead, they literally went like right through the wall, and they like just popped up in my face in a second. So I was like it caught me off like by surprise. I was just so like surprised because I saw them coming through the entrance, but there's a wall in front of them. So I'm like, okay, they're gonna drive around and like stop in front of me. But they just go like right through the wall, and like in a second, they're already in my face. The cops are like, they came out of the car already. So I was like, what the hell happened? Like it's a major bug you don't want to see, especially in one of like the first cutscenes of the game.
That sucks.
Yeah, and then just like this one other bug that happened to me. I was just driving through the city, and then I accidentally bumped into like I grazed by this car, and so I'm just continuing to drive, and out of nowhere, this car just like super speeds and smacks me like in the side. Like I was like, what the hell? Like where? Like I just grazed by the car, but then he just like sped up and like hit me back. I was like, what the hell happened? Like it's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I just like, especially on consoles, I think like I know like obviously they didn't want to delay the game again, which would have been nuts if they did. But I really think like a few more months of polish was needed, especially for last gen. I actually gave my PS4 to one of my buddies, so he's been playing Cyberpunk too, and like it's only 30 frames on the PS4. And I just find it like such a shame that like, cause this game's been in development for so long, they like, I'm so surprised like how badly optimized it is for last gen.
It's funny that they announced this game in 2012 for next gen, right? So 2012 PS4 didn't even exist yet.
PS4
so
gen,
if you would have told
and
me
it
back in
runs so
2012
bad.
that this game getting announced for next gen wouldn't even run on next gen really that well at all, that's just kind of
Yeah,
hilarious.
it's crazy. And also like I know on base PS4, cause like I gave him my base PS4. The game crashes so often.
I'm almost wondering if they should have just
crazy.
scrapped the last gen version. Like, I know obviously that's going to use more development time, but at a certain point, like, maybe this should have just been a PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC release. I think I saw a tweet that put it best, like, Cyberpunk should have released this week on PC. It should have released next year on, next generation consoles, and should have never released on, old generation, last gen, so... I feel like that kind of puts it best. I can't speak on it, but the screenshots I've seen as well, like the game just looks totally different on console. So I feel like you're almost playing like a different game if you're playing it at least on last gen. I can't speak for PS5, but from what I've seen on
Yeah,
PS4, it's wild.
I mean, the weird thing is with Cyberpunk's development as well is that I mean, they really didn't start actual development on Cyberpunk until late 2015. So when they'd started work on the first of the Witcher 3 expansions. So like the game between 2012 and 2015 was in pre-production stages. Like they'd made concept art and that CG trailer, and that was about it. Um, and the thing is as well, like I was watching Digital Foundry's video, like it's very clear to them, and I think most people, that it is a PC game first and foremost, and putting it on PS4 and Xbox One was at the back of their mind throughout years of development, and I feel like they didn't really think about porting it like properly and putting work into it until, last year, beginning of the year, and that is why the game has been delayed so much. I mean, it is still obviously buggy on PC, but it is not to the same extent as it appears to be on last gen. So it is a shame, and like Brand said, it does beg the question whether they should have just cancelled it on current gen. But I think it's also down to a thing of CD Projekt don't want to upset people because
Yeah.
they're seen in such a like godly light by the gaming community, because in most people's eyes they can do no harm, and so cancelling a game for over 100 million players potentially is a big deal. So I get why they wouldn't cancel it, but at the same time, you do kind of think, maybe this game would have done a bit better if they'd just stuck with PC and next gen.
There's this side to it, and then there's also the side where they didn't like allow any console footage. So I'm just like, yo, this
Right,
game's a
yeah.
mess. At least inform the public that this is the state it is, because you're going to be showing them PC footage, and people are going to be expecting that that's what you're going to be getting when you buy Cyberpunk on your PS4 or
True.
PS5.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of crazy to see how different that game looks. Like it's almost like, like it's almost like they committed a crime, almost in a way, just like not showing footage that actually represented what people would be buying. So I wish that at least the developers would have allowed the press to show off how it ran before it came out. But yeah, just everything with in terms of at least the last generation consoles has been a mess. Hopefully, we'll see how much they can patch it between now and I don't know, the next few weeks, months. There is going to still be that, next generation patch that's going to allow for the full potential. I imagine that will allow the PS4 version to, not maybe be in parity with PC, but at least, be similar to PC. But in terms of the PS4 footage, like, I don't know how much patching can fix that, because, like, it almost just looks like it's being pushed to its limits. Like, obviously, if you, like me and Charlie, obviously, having played on PC, like, it's almost crazy to think that this game could run on PS4 when you look at, like, the crowd sizes,
Yeah.
and obviously you can optimize, but how much you can optimize is another kind of story, so.
Do you guys have really big crowd sizes on PC?
Pretty big crowd
They're not
sizes, yeah.
I mean, they're not to the same extent as they were in the gameplay demos. But
Oh,
I never
yeah,
expected
not that
Sure,
big.
yeah.
I never expected that, because you go back and watch those and they make it very clear that it's work in progress, and the game would never, be on that kind of fidelity level. I think in a lot of ways the game does look that good. But when it comes to like crowd density and things, it's not like an insane leap over something like GTA. Yeah, I feel like they could up that a bit, but also that kind of stuff is very taxing on hardware. So that is probably why there is not as big a crowds as they originally showed off. I will say performance is very weird in the game. Like, a lot of the settings on PC don't really do anything. Like, you'll change them and nothing really changes visually or performance-wise. There's only a few settings that really do anything. So I don't really know what's going on there. There's so many people on Reddit coming up with guides on like how to optimize it, because unless you have got a really good PC, it is a bit of a pain to run. I've got a mate who runs like a 1060 build, which is what the majority of people with PCs have, and it does not run very well. So, yeah.
I only got a 1070, so like I don't even know if I'd be able to run it well on my PC.
Yeah.
I think you'd probably be alright. Like, I think it's more to do with video RAM.
Is it that big of a
Um,
difference to 1060, 1070? I mean,
That's
like,
a
yeah,
pretty
there is.
sizable jump. A 60
Yeah.
series
Oh,
to
it is?
70.
Okay, I don't know. I don't really know, to be
It's a
honest.
decent.
So.
Obviously, you're not going to see like between 1060 to like a 2080 or something, but like you're still going
Yeah.
to see a decent jump there.
Okay.
I'm running on a 2080 Super. I'm turning off ray tracing because I still think ray tracing is something of the future, at least right now. Because you can put it on and it looks pretty, it looks better than it does without it, obviously. But it like cuts your frame rate in half, which to me it's like even if I can get the game running above 60 FPS with ray tracing on, I'd rather play it at 120 without ray tracing or, close to that. So it obviously, like, there's a lot of big jumps. Like, there's going to be points in Cyberpunk where I have like 120 FPS and then parts where I have like 80, 90. And then, like, on the very demanding side, sometimes I'll get down to like as low as 60 and 70s. But yeah, I've mainly been, I think the average is around 80 to 100 FPS, 1440p, without ray tracing on. What about you, Charlie? How has your performance been?
Well, I started off playing the game with ray tracing, and I capped the game at 60, and was just playing with controller, because I wanted to just experience it with everything at max. I was using DLSS, which is like the really clever NVIDIA technology that renders at a much lower resolution and upscales to make sure you're still getting the same visual quality, but you're running at a much smoother frame rate. And it's basically needed. Like, you cannot play the game with ray tracing without DLSS. It's just not possible. The ray tracing looks great, but once you turn it off, you do realize that even the screen space reflections look fine. And I noticed, like, there is a performance jump. It's not as massive as I would have hoped. I have had to keep DLSS on the quality mode, just because when you're going around the open world, the frame rate can fluctuate so much. Like, when you're in buildings, it runs great. Like, you'll go between 90 and, like, Brand said, like 110, 120 FPS. But as soon as you get in that open world, it fluctuates between like 60 and 80 depending on what you're doing. I've had some drops to 50 when I've been driving in some areas. So hopefully they'll patch it and just make it a bit smoother. But overall, it runs decently on PC. But then, like, me and Brandon both have pretty powerful.
We're being like,
rigs,
we're
so-
also, yeah, on like one hand, it's like we're speaking on our perspective. Like, honestly, in my opinion, anything over 60, you're good. But yeah, there is that, fluctuation that can be annoying at times. And as you said, like, we're running like higher end builds that the majority of the PC audience doesn't have. So with like 1060s, I hope, they patch it going forward so all of us can have a better experience on PC. That being said, like, my experience has been really good. Performance wise, I'm happy with it, obviously based on my personal experience, but I know for sure in the general PC audience, there's definitely needs to be a lot of work done. So yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, a lot of expectations have to do with things like, obviously, speaking outside of performance in terms of this game overall, you gotta, weigh in your expectations. But overall, I've never really been super excited about, Cyberpunk. Like, I looked forward to it. I knew I was gonna play and I was gonna like it. But I never really got into The Witcher 3, so I still had that in the back of my mind. I've already played more Cyberpunk than I did of, Witcher 3, so I think that says enough about how much I'm liking that game right now. Yeah, just really liking my time. Anything you guys want to close off with? Any closing remarks?
Um,
For Cyberpunk, or in
Yeah,
general?
just on the game in
Oh.
general, whatever you want to, your takeaway, I guess.
I mean, yeah, I'm still really early. I guess I didn't really meant to talk too much about the game, my gameplay experience. I think you mentioned earlier, yeah, like the
You're
what's it called,
both
melee
doing
combat?
Street Kid too, right? Just to throw that out
Oh,
for
yeah,
people
I'm
that
doing
want to
Street
know our
Kid,
life
Street
paths.
Kid.
I'm doing Corpro, and I believe, yeah, Charlie and Justin are both doing Street Kid. I think that only changes really your dialogue options as well as your introduction to the game. Besides that, the
Yeah.
main missions they're the same, so it'll change a bit on how you respond, but you're gonna be playing the same missions as everyone else.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that will
Um,
affect the ending, obviously, yet, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just wanted to say that the melee combat, like you mentioned earlier, like you're quite disappointed by it. And yeah, like I just think that like I haven't gotten the arms yet or whatever. So I mean, I'm just using like just regular hand whatever right now, or like or pick up a melee weapon.
when you say
But,
arms,
like,
you mean like
yeah.
the blades or something?
Yeah, the blades. Sorry, the
Okay.
blades. Yeah. So I haven't gotten those yet. So I'm just using my hands to if I'm using melee combat. And yeah, it is like it's quite. I don't find it very like fun. You know, I just find that like even I did the training or whatever. You know, like or it teaches you the basics of combat and stuff. But yeah, most of the time like if I resort to hand-to-hand combat, I just end up like just spamming the punch button because like I don't know, they're just like right in front of me, and then like I swear like I don't know, it just doesn't. I feel like it doesn't work properly.
Is there rumble on controller?
You know what? I honestly forgot to turn. Bro, I've been playing so much Call of Duty that I realized I forgot to turn it back on.
What about you,
I've been
Charlie? I
playing
know you've been
multiplayer,
playing
so,
with controllers. Is that a thing? Is there
Um,
rumble?
I, it's just like any other controller rumble. There's no like I mean, Steam doesn't even have like adaptive trigger or haptic support yet. So there's no real way of telling. But as far as I can tell, it's just normal haptics.
As I say,
I've
'cause-
actually,
Mhm.
I was just gonna say I've actually switched to keyboard and mouse for the past few hours of playing. So, but yeah, like I think both of you said, the hand-to-hand combat is not the best. I think when you've got like a katana, I think that's really good. Like I don't know what it is about it, the animation, something about it is really satisfying to swing that thing. Especially when you start upgrading like your blade abilities, like for doing combos where your attack speed gets quicker and stuff. Like they're really satisfying to use. So I want to get the mantis blades. But they cost an absolute fortune, so I don't know when I will unlock those.
Oh, you don't even have the blades yet?
No, dude, they're expensive as hell.
Yeah,
you did 12
yeah.
I don't know. I like
I haven't.
12 hours.
The first
in. I
8
thought they were, like, an
hours.
essential
The first
part
8
of the
hours
game,
are
so-
mainly story, progression.
Right,
There's not
okay,
too much gameplay wise besides your initial visit to, what do you call those? The guy that helps you. I forgot his name. Victor. Yeah, Victor.
Victor Vector, yeah.
Yeah, Victor Vector. He had something in initially that helps with in terms of like tracking and scanning, but yeah,
So
it's pretty minimal.
Are you guys doing a lot of side stuff, or are you just mainly focusing on?
It's mainly, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say too much that will spoil it. It's just mainly, it feels like just the introduction of the game, at least where I'm
Okay.
at.
No, because it's weird. Because I know like, I've seen people beat the main story if you just do the main story in like 20 something hours.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm at a point where I feel like I just finished Act 1. I had to have finished Act 1 right now, and I'm 8 hours in, so I'm guessing if I'm going at the same speed right now, I can finish it in 24, 25. That being said, I'm hoping the game opens up more as I get past this introduction here.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, in the prologue, you can do side missions, and there's, like, side activities for the police where you can go and take down criminals and stuff. It just doesn't really advertise that stuff unless you go looking for it on the map.
I did 2 of those, but they like hardly paid off, like paid anything. Like I think I got
Right,
like
okay.
$3,000, and like there's hardly like anything that changed.
The main bit where it'll change is once you beat that prologue, as soon as you step back into the open world, you kind of get overwhelmed by content. Like it basically gives you about like 10 side missions just appear in your quest log, and loads of icons just appear on the map, and it is very overwhelming. And I think that's one thing I would really want to see improved is the quest menu. It's kind of a mess. Like it doesn't.
I agree.
I really wish it would divide stuff up into difficulty because it's all kind of jumbled together. But yeah, I've mainly been doing side stuff since I got into Act 2, just because I don't want to rush the story. And if it's anything like Witcher 3, some of the best content is the side content.
Exactly.
And the main story is just kind of the beginning. And the side stuff is the bulk of the game. So I'm not planning to rush it. But at the same time, I don't want to get spoiled. So I will probably try and beat the story within the next few weeks. But we'll see.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I'm definitely going to be doing the same thing once I get into Act 2 fully. I was going to say something. I was going to forget. Oh, yeah. So, like, yeah, as you said, the quest page is really a mess. I was, like, even trying to find the quest page for a second. I didn't realize it was under journals. I thought journals would be,
Yeah.
like, a bunch of articles I collected because there's a ton of those. And even when you get into that page, they're just, I don't know. As you said, they're not really, kind of given its due, considering it's a, RPG. So I would hope that would be one of the fixes after performance and bugs that they iron out. Can't imagine that will be soon, though. But, yeah. Overall, I'm liking the game. I want to play more, and I'm sure we'll talk about it next week more. Yeah. I guess, yeah, anything else you wanted to add before? I don't want to cut anyone off, so if you had anything else you want to say. Yeah.
No, I think
That's
I
about
covered
it.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so I guess, yeah, but that being said, it has been episode 5 this week of Critically Incorrect. Quite a good week full of gaming news, announcements, and kind of putting a bow tie on this year, really. Because besides now, there's not really going to be much coming out besides a few updates next week with like Fall Guys and some games, but really getting into the holiday season.
I'm waiting for a Sackboy online multiplayer, man.
That
That's
patch still
true,
has yet to
yeah.
come out. Yeah,
When is that
I've
coming
hardly
out,
played that
man?
game. I don't know.
Yeah.
Insomniac, they were like, oh, we're going to do a patch for Spider-Man. It's going to come out later in the year or something like that. And it literally came out like before Thanksgiving. Like it came out really quickly. But yeah, Sackboy, Sumo Digital. Come on, man.
Waiting
Give us
for
that patch. It's almost Christmas time. We want to play with our online buddies here. So yeah, I've actually avoided playing that game because I want to wait for that patch. So that's like the one launch title I've yet to really fully dive into from Sony. So hopefully that comes out soon. But yeah, getting towards the holiday season, I'm sure. News will dwindle down, so we'll do a lot more personal content and personal topics in the next few weeks as we, go over to hopefully a better year in 2021, because can't really get worse than this year, but I would not be surprised at the same time. I want to remind you again to send in your questions if you have anything you want us to talk about. Make sure to, leave them in the comment section down below. Join our Discord. You can also leave it over there. But that being said, that has been episode 5 of Critically Incorrect. I've been Onliner Brandon, joined today by Charlie and Justin. So until next time, take care. See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.